in law enforcement, Chief Oakman is committed to reducing crime, building trust, and fostering diversity within his department. He brings a wealth of experience, including his role as deputy chief in the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Without any further ado, let's welcome Chief Oakman to share with us how he has been working within the areas of stopping and reducing violence in his community that reflects the community of America at whole. Thank you. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes.
And so real quick, I'm in Kansas City, Kansas, which is across the river from
Oh, okay.
KCMO. I retired from KCMO as a deputy chief after 29 years and became the chief of Kansas City, Kansas, which is where I was born and raised.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where I left Kansas City, Kansas, oh man, let's see, 40 years ago, 35, something like that, 30 years ago. Living in the housing projects and came back as the police chief. So you can only do that in America. So long struggle, but yeah, just talking about violence. So unfortunately, Kansas City, Missouri, the city to the east of us, is not having the greatest time controlling violence. Here in Kansas City, Kansas, year to date, we're at historical lows in just about every category, from homicide, rape, assault, robbery. Our homicides year to date are down 37%. Some of the factors that we did is, one, as a police chief, you have to really realize what's going on in the community, what's causing the violence, and understanding your role as a police department. Everyone has roles to help reduce that, but as a police department, I think sometimes you want to work with the community, very important, but I think sometimes we focus too much on the community and not really what our responsibility is within the community, if that makes sense. So there's things that we're responsible for doing as a police department to help reduce the violence. And one, as you mean, is working with the community. And why that's so important, we put in a plan, and a lot of times cities say they have plans, but they really don't have a plan to really address violence. Their plan is always, oh, we're going to improve community trust. We're going to build partnerships. Okay, that's what everyone says, and your violence continues to, go out of control. Well, because what it is that you need to have a plan on how the police department, with their resources, what their responsibility is in that situation. I can't make a church do what I want the church to do, but I can make the police department and the officers do their part. And I think sometimes, as they say, sometimes we get out of our lane and don't understand what our span of control actually is. So what we did in KCK, we created a detailed violence reduction plan that we put in place in January of 2022. And I became chief in June of 2021. So that was my main focus, is to really address violent crime while at the same time building that community trust. And you can do both. I think that we really figured out that balance between enforcement and community engagement. Sometimes we go 100% community engagement or 100% enforcement. and it doesn't work on either end. You have to, because I'll tell you this, there are individuals in our community that need to be in jail. Let's just get that out in the open. I know we talk about, oh, you can't arrest yourself out of this. And yes, you can, but you have to put the right people in jail. That's always been the problem. So what we did in KCK, we took this program and we did we had 4 basic parts, objectives to this plan. And one was strengthen patrol officers' involvement in the violence reduction through police visibility and intervention. So we have to understand the patrol officer that responds to the 911 call, they are the first line against violence prevention as well as enforcement. And so one thing that we always talk about is building community trust. And it is very important, number one thing. But the other thing that we forget about is building trust, that the police officers trust the community that they're serving. And so I made sure that we built that relationship where we were working on the community trust, but officers' trust of the community. And I'll give you an example. So when you have a police department that doesn't trust the community that it serves, you're going to respond to your 911 calls, handle the call, and then you're just going to wait for the next call. A police department that trusts their community, they're going to handle those calls. They're going to follow up on those calls. They're going to stay visible in that neighborhood, talking to the neighbors, finding out what's going on in that neighborhood and go above and beyond just answering that 911 call. They're going to work with the leaders of those neighborhoods. And I'm not talking about the police chief and the commanders. I'm talking about the officers on the street working with those community leaders, those pastors in those neighborhoods, building that relationship and understanding what's going on in each neighborhood by neighborhood. And so that's kind of what we did on strengthening really that community engagement. And then the second thing was really implementing crime reduction efforts that don't erode community trust, is really understanding the enforcement part of it. Like one thing, we created a real-time crime center where we're getting all of our cameras that are feeding into one location where we have access to where when officers are responding to a call, they can get that live footage of what's going on in that particular area, as well as having the community members really working with us, telling us, hey, I got a Ring camera on my house. I have this brand on my house. And if you need the footage, it's available to you. As well as doing a violent crime accountability. We call it shoot review, but it's a violent crime accountability that we have weekly to talk about. And in this room, we have the commanders, we have patrol officers, we have probation, parole, prosecutors, all the federal agencies, FBI, ATF, DEA, all of that. So as we talk about these homicides and non-fatal shootings, we look at ways to really have the resources available to, one, identify the suspect, and two, to arrest the suspect. And also the bigger thing is to make sure that we don't have detectives going in a rabbit hole where they're really not looking at the right suspect and making sure that the evidence is pointing to the right person to put a charge on. And then we do risk for retaliation with our victims, our witnesses, and our suspects, because oftentimes you may have been a victim of a shooting in June. Well, you don't want to cooperate with the police. You want to catch up with that person. And then we have a homicide in November where you're now the suspect in a homicide when you were a victim in a shooting in June. So we really put resources in that, identifying those victims and really making sure that they're cooperating with us in the investigation. And a lot of times we have to tell them, hey, we're watching you. We know that you're going to try to retaliate, and we're going to intervene in that. So that's part of that plan, as well as and our number three, and there's several other things we do under the violent crime. One is really making sure our detectives understand when you go out on a case, you need to work that case till its completion. Yeah, if it happened on Friday night, don't do a little bit of work and say, hey, I'll pick it up on Monday. No, you're going to work that case to where you can't work it anymore before you call it quits. And we've seen some really good results. At one point in August, we had a 100% clearance rate in our homicides, which was the first time that late in the year that the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department had a 100% clearance rate in homicides. And right now we're at about 92%, and we think that we're going to solve, we have 2 other cases that we believe we're going to solve. So part of that, as well as creating a cold case squad that's just dedicated to cold case homicides. Last week, we just charged 4 cold cases, the oldest going back to 1976. So that's and then number 3 is really, we implemented a detailed action plan to address the violence related to fentanyl and opioids. Something we found out in KCK is that the same individuals that were involved in gang activity, that were selling crack cocaine, methamphetamine, are now selling fentanyl. So what we do in KCK, every fentanyl overdose, whether they die or survive, we require a detective to go to the scene and start tracing that back to where where they got that fentanyl from. And it's resulted in search warrants. And since January, just in our fentanyl search warrants, we've recovered almost 300 illegal firearms just from these fentanyl search warrants. Now, that's 300 firearms that are not going to be used in robberies, not going to be used in shootings, and will not be used in homicides. So we take that approach, as well as education and prevention. We've done about 35 educational seminars and programs on the dangers of fentanyl. And fentanyl, and I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's a preppy drug, whatever. Fentanyl is now being associated with the same violence we saw during the crack cocaine epidemic. So we're addressing it. A lot of police departments, and majority of police departments, are behind the 8 ball and still approaching it as a, something that teenagers use. They get in high school. They're still approaching it as that type of situation, and you can see in the number of their violence. And they don't realize that a lot of that violence is related to that sale and use of fentanyl. So we've taken that approach on the fentanyl enforcement, which has helped reduce our violent crime, because these were the same individuals that were out robbing people, shooting people. Now they're on the run because we're chasing them. I mean, we're doing 1 to 2 search warrants on fentanyl a week. So we're really involved and really engaged in that. And one thing we realize is how we learned from crack cocaine the wrong way to go after a drug problem. So we pretty much use the users now as witnesses and sources to go after the dealers and the suppliers. So that's been pretty phenomenal for us on reducing our crime. And then the 4th part of our plan is our community engagement program. So we have a robust community engagement program. We always start the year off, usually in the spring, with a peace walk in down one of our streets, about a mile and a half a mile walk. And we get all the community members together, all the police officers, and we walk down the street to show our solidarity. And then we talk about our year-end stats, how we performed at the end of the year, and our goals for the coming year. And this is well attended. We have several hundred people that come out and attend this event with us. You know, we have food, different events. So we kick that off every year. And then we do we do 2 summer youth academies with kids 12 to 15. We run those through the summer. Then every one of our police stations have open houses throughout the summer so the community can meet their command staff. They can talk to their officers as well as bring us any complaints or concerns that they have. And then we do a big football camp every year in the summer called Tackling Conflict Together. Now, it's for ages 8 to 18. We usually get about 300 kids. Now, what we do is, and the Kansas City Chiefs partner with us, a lot of businesses. Now, this is more than just a football camp. So what we do is every coach who does different drills will get a certain word like self-control, pride, conflict, that kind of thing. And throughout the camp, they will reiterate this to the kids, what the word means, how to, you know, achieve different goals, how to make good decisions. And then at the end of the camp, we have a speaker on conflict resolution and anger management. So we spend about 30 minutes to an hour just discussing that with the kids after the camp. And then we give them free gifts and food, and it's a great time. So we do that, as well as Kansas City, Kansas. We our population is about 32% Hispanic. So what I did when I first became the chief, I created a Hispanic community liaison officer, and that's a captain who was born and raised in the community, bilingual, because we have a significant undocumented population. And what we found out is that some of the gangs in those neighborhoods were pretty much terrorizing the neighborhoods because they knew that those individuals were afraid to come to the police because of their immigration status, or just not really having a cultural divide and a language barrier. So what this allowed us to do is really to reach out to those communities, and we've seen a significant decrease in the gang activity, them reporting information to us, as well as actually going, coming to our Spanish language citizens academies so they could understand how to be involved. And one of the unique things about that, we start seeing more of those members of that community showing up to our open houses, being part of our football camp, going to our youth activities. So that's really helped us on the community engagement part. So, and then we stay involved. We created about a year and a half ago, we created through our police athletic league, which is really robust. We created the only free driver's ed program in the United States that's taught by 2 police officers. And I sent both officers to get certified as state driving instructors. So what they do is kids ages 15 to 19, they take them through, so far we've trained, I want to say about 180 kids. And once they complete the program, we take them down to the DMV, they present them with the certificate, and they get their driver's license. And one thing that this program does, it not only teaches you how to drive, it also teaches you what to do when you get a traffic ticket to keep that from becoming a warrant. Because a traffic ticket will follow you your entire life if you don't take care of it. So what we do is, not only that, we teach them how to maintain insurance, how to pay your property taxes on your vehicle, everything possible so that you don't get mixed up into the system based on not really understanding that whole situation with operating a vehicle. And then the most important part of it, when you look around the country, most of the issues between young people and police usually occur during a traffic stop. So what we're doing is really building that relationship. You're sitting there, you know, a couple hours a day in a car with a police officer going over how to drive. So there's a lot of different discussions about traffic stops, what to do, all of that. So that's all incorporated in our driver's education program in Kansas City, Kansas. So those are just a few highlights of some of the things we've done. And then what we've seen as a result of that plan, we've seen our crime right now is at historical lows in Kansas City, Kansas. And we keep pushing to even get it lower. So that's kind of an overview of kind of what we've done in KCK. So I will take questions at this point.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. That was pretty comprehensive. You did. I like what you did. You did start within the frame of the police department, and I like what you indicated in that relationship between the community, but the crux and the actual change begins within the context of the police department, how the police department decides in its internally to engage with the community. And then the community can, of course, you know, engage back with the police department with less static, if you will. And so the efforts that you have been making is to how to reduce the static so that there is a genuine and more conducive engagement between the community to get the results that are really needed. So really thank you for that and all your instructions, and then you're going into all these other projects that works in tandem with all that your department is doing. I let's open up the door. Thank you very much. I think Alan Jessen, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much. I was just commenting on, your first point about stay in your lane. It kind of struck me because it seems that sometimes people are wanting to take your job or think they can do your job better, and they have no basis for. I mean, there's things they feel, but they may not really understand clearly what it means to be a police officer. So I think that's in building trust both ways. That was a kind of a good characterization of sometimes we need to just do our part and not try to do other people's part. So thank you for that. And then the other thing, your last point on the working in driver's education. Wow, that's brilliant, because you're right. You read about and hear about, these traffic stops that turn into some horrible situation, and get people when they're young and have an influence on them, give them the positive experience with the police officer and education from your side. That's brilliant. I'd love to see how that can be expanded. You have any suggestions for how that could be?
I sit on the Human and Civil Rights Committee of the IACP, which is the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and I've brought that program nationally. So there's some discussion about trying really to work with some other police departments to put that in place. So it is an ongoing discussion, and so hopefully we can see it expand out. So there's a lot of departments that are really wanting to do it, and they've been in contact with us on the logistics.
Okay, thank you very much. I see some other comments, and those people who made those comments. Actually, I'm on the phone, so I can't see it all so clearly, but I did see Wayne and also Brother Mooney. And please share your thoughts or some questions that you have to address to Chief Oakman. Yes, Mr. Mooney, you're muted. You're still muted. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Cal, I really appreciated your presentation, and really, I admire you for your perseverance in truly resolving this issue on gun violence, as well as incarcerating the right people that need to be incarcerated. And I'd like to get your response is what, in your opinion, responsibilities for the gun violence and incarcerating people that are actually exercising their constitutional rights. What responsibilities do the legislators of your state take on the incredible increase in violence and in incarcerating people that are simply exercising their constitutional rights? Anyway, that's my question.
Yeah, I think when you talk about, and this is one thing we do at the police athletic league, which I didn't mention. I think there has been in some communities really this fear of guns, and I think one of the issues, and this is a political issue on both sides, so sometimes that always clouds common sense. So one thing that we do at POW is we do a really comprehensive gun safety program that we do. And one of the reasons why we do it is that we really want to teach young people that guns have a purpose. The purpose for guns, hunting, sport, and self-defense in your home or wherever. It's not to settle arguments. It's not to get even with this person who, did this to you or did that to you. So unfortunately, when you're really not teaching people the purpose of guns, they learn it from their friends, just like with anything else, just like with, anything else. If parents aren't teaching you something, you learn it from your friends. So I think we really need to make sure when it comes to guns, when kids are young, that we understand this is the purpose of a gun, not this, not to settle arguments and so on. And as I said, regarding the legislature, I mean, I'm in the state of Kansas, so, just like Missouri, which is across the river. So, there's not a lot you can really talk about when it comes to guns with the legislature. But I will tell you this, all 50 states do have legitimate gun laws in place. The problem is that I think we're not really enforcing the laws that we already have in place. That's part of the problem. But like I said, with guns, I think the problem is people just don't understand. They're not there for you to settle arguments with. And that's something that we really need to figure out how to educate people. And everyone has a gun. It's so funny when you talk about illegal guns on the street. You know how most illegal guns are put on the street? By them being taken or stolen from legal gun owners. I tell people there's not a 76 Pacer in the alley with the hatchback up selling guns out to people. These guns are put on the street because they're breaking into vehicles where people are just keeping their guns under the seat, in the glove box, and the criminals know where to look at. Even when they burglarize your house, they're looking for guns and jewelry. That's what they're looking for nowadays. They're not looking for the big TV set and running down the street holding the television set. No, they're looking for guns and jewelry when they burglarize a house.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. I think we have, I can see Dr. Jenkins is here, the president of our UPF, who is the sponsoring this webinar. Dr. Jenkins, welcome. Why don't you say a couple of
Thank you.
words?
Thank you, Dr. Oliver, and thank you, Chief. It was really, really an honor to receive your in-depth understanding and leadership of the community. We're just amazed by Kansas City, Kansas. We're just amazed. We see so many good developments, and we back the blue. We want to let you know that we back the blue and how we can help, and how our we have a number of representatives in your community. We'd like to do all we can to help you. What's the best thing we can do locally with our neighbors that are in Kansas City, Kansas, and around the area? And what can we do nationally to help you from the point of view that we have, affiliates all over the country, and we're doing a Back the Blue program in many cities. Well, our UPF, anyway, that's my question.
I think that what I think all police departments struggle with is the image. And, I really want the public to know that we really make sure that, we hold officers accountable. Unfortunately, because a lot of the state laws, we can't tell them exactly, but, I've been the chief since 2021 of June, and I've fired 10 people since I've been here. So yes, officers do get fired and terminated for misconduct. We have 2 books about, I want to say about 6 inches thick that we have to know. And that's everything from policies, procedures, state laws, local laws, city ordinances, all of that. And they're held to accountable. I mean, when you look at, we have someone that constantly audits body cameras. We go through everyone's body cam and audit that monthly. And when we see, and oftentimes a lot of it is often like some policy issues, but we don't really find a lot of misconduct, but when we do find it, we address it. And, like for instance, if we see 2 officers on a call and we see misconduct, then we'll go back as long as we have the video, a lot of times up to a year. We'll go back and look at all their video going back that year.
Wow.
And if it rises to the level, it'll definitely rise to the level of discipline, but if it rises to the level of termination, we'll terminate them. And then not only that, if we see something that we think could possibly be criminal, we then move forward that file over to the DA's office for review.
Very good.
I think really where you can always help us is just help us with our image when it comes, things like recruiting and really the community. And what I really would stress is when the police are sponsoring the event, go attend. That's where you really can talk about if you got some issues or something you got concerns about. That's where you sometimes can get one-on-one conversation with that division commander, that supervisor, that captain. So just really take advantage of the events the police sponsors and then just help with.
Okay. Very good.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Jenkins.
Chief.
I see Wayne Hankins, and then after that, Dr. Madeline and John O'Connor. And I believe, did you have your hand up, Stoner? Well, go ahead, Wayne.
Chief Oakman, you said something that I rarely heard, but it totally makes sense. And that is that the police have to trust their community. Cannot be fearful of their community or vengeful for their community. But there's forces that push that with defund the police. We saw it in the 60s when police officers were called pigs, and if you were an officer, you were automatically tagged as evil. And this was pushed by anarchist and Marxist people. So I'm curious to see, do you go out and is there enough confrontation with such people where you go out and say, hey, let's talk about this.
Mhm.
And I want to hear more why you have these attitudes.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was in Kansas City, Missouri, I was deputy chief overall of patrol, and that was when we had the big George Floyd incident. So and we got a place called the Country Club Plaza. So I was down there for 10 days running that whole operation. And at that point, I had been on the police department for 29 years. And just think about it, 29 years. And I had never heard some of the hurtful things people were saying to those officers that was on the line. And think about this. This woman or man had just got to work and said, hey, you need to go down here. We got this big protest threatened to burn this whole shopping area. So they had to stand on this line. These are people just like everyone else. They have a family, they have kids, all this. They didn't ask to come down there and stand on that line. And I mean, people were calling them all kind of names, talking about their families and all this hurtful stuff.
Sure.
Oftentimes it got so bad that I was the #2 person in charge in Kansas City. I would actually tap them out on their shoulder and stand in their place and let them go get a break, just a break from that. And these were people who were fresh out the academy and had to go down here, who had never seen anything like that. But and I think a lot of officers have not healed from 2020. Just some of the treatment from their elected officials, prosecutors, a lot of them haven't healed from that. So when I talk about really trusting your community, a lot of them, like I said, haven't healed from that. And I understand the whole dynamics. I'm not saying that, but these particular individuals, had nothing to do with it. They were just there doing their job. But yeah, we have a couple groups in Kansas City, Kansas that I try to talk to, and I'm flexible. But what I've found is these groups are not flexible at all. They don't want to hear anything you have to say.
Yeah.
But I use the facts, not the feelings. So that's kind of how I approach the conversation. But no, they're set in their ways. And the sad thing is that there are groups that they want the police and community not to get along. Because the police and community get along, they go away. They cease to exist.
Well,
So
that's very
when the
true.
police and community are not getting along, that's great fundraising opportunities for those organizations. So I know it's not personal towards me. I know what the agenda is. And, and we got some on the police side too. But I think that really, that's why a lot of times they can't move from that line in the sand, because that anger is part of their existence. If that goes away, their existence go away. It's called program preservation.
Thank you, Chief, for that. That's really profound. We have Dr. Madeline Alexander next.
Greetings, Dr. Oliver and Chief Oakman. Thank you
Hello.
so much for sharing your plethora of experience. As you were talking, I came on a little late, but I was just in time because I heard you speak about your community engagement.
Mhm.
And to me, I think that is what really makes the community and the police department really tick. I think that's how we grow. I think that's how we really nurture each other when it comes to protect and serve. I was thinking about how back in the day they used to do the ride-alongs, but you said that you guys actually have driver's ed. You actually offer driver's ed. And I was thinking, wow, that's such an awesome way to start to build those relationships and to show the kids, because the kids are our future, and it's the kids that's really having these tumultuous problems with the police officers when in relevance to respect. So I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and for your program itself, I would like to see it duplicated as well, because you are taking that time to go into the community, to serve the community, yet to extend the respect of the community and have it to be a give and take, and not just a police officer's point of view. So I thank you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing there. And I pray that it continues, and I pray for your administration as you guys continue to go forward.
Thank you. Always need prayer. Thank you for that.
Amen.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Alexander, thank you so much. John O'Connor.
Yes, sir. Hi, Chief Oakman. Good to see you. I was quite a bit late because I was preparing for this weekend where we're getting ready to have you there with us in attendance for our Peace Road event on Sunday. So I hope that you can work that out. But anyway, as I asked before about the question of how do you keep track of your crime record, and how does that compare with other cities and states? Can you quite know for sure you're comparing the same quantity, or how can you, when you say decrease in crime, how does that work out, and how can you compare across the board with other states and other cities?
Yeah, what we do is we have like I said, we have a real-time crime center, which is full of crime analysis people. And we have a computer system, we call it records management system. Everything, when we get calls for service, it's all recorded. It's documented through the computer system, as well as the report that's generated, and then the results of that report. So we've kept stats for a good 30, 40 years. So we can go back and compare it. Just like with our homicides, we send out a monthly homicide update on our homicides. It has the number, year to date, and then 5 years year to date, race, sex of the victim, race, sex of the suspect, motive, how many cases are at the prosecutor's office, all of that stuff. We keep detailed stats on that to compare it, and we go through every crime category and compare it year to date and then year to year. And then we use that data as we compare it to like cities, such as different, like for instance, we're really working. When I first got here in June, in 2020, KCK had 58 homicides. Well, 2021, we got that number down to 50. 2022, we got it down to 37. And right now, year to date, we have 19 compared to 31 last year.
Wow.
That's big time.
So,
that's great.
And on top of that, we maintained a 92% solvability rate. So of those 19, we've solved 92. And as of August, we had solved 100%. But we keep track of just about every possible stat, and then we compare it. So KCK has the second largest police department in the state of Kansas, behind Wichita. We're the third largest city in the state of Kansas by population, behind Wichita and Overland Park. And right now, there's several other cities that have more homicides than we do in KCK. And then we're the second largest police department in the metro. Kansas City, Missouri is the largest in the Kansas City metropolitan area. And we're doing pretty well. And KCMO is not doing that well, my city, but yeah, but you really gotta be strategic about that and really having a plan. And, you know, and you can't spend all your time talking about stuff. You need to actually do it.
Amen.
And so that's one of the things we've done is really stopped a lot of the talk and spent that time actually working on these strategies, implementing them, and really working with our community partners to make sure we get things done.
Great. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Hope to see you
Thank
Sunday.
very-
Yes.
Thank
Wow, wonderful,
great.
wonderful program.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for all your explanation. We do have a celebrity on that would like to ask you a question, and that is Dr. Franklin, Bill Cosby Franklin.
Sure.
Yeah, right. All right,
Okay.
Doctor. All right,
Okay.
Reverend Franklin.
Thank
But
you,
even
Reverend.
when he speaks, he reminds me of Bill Cosby. And it seems like the more you mature, the more you start to look like him. Amen. So, so
Thank
you
you,
can
man.
ask the question.
God bless
Yeah.
you, Reverend Oliver. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Dr. Jenkins, and good to see everybody. Oh man, my God, God bless you, Chief Oakman. Oh man, God bless you. You are my hero, man. This what you were doing is fantastic. You know, and one of the things of which I'm just thinking too. My hearts go out to all the police department and the wonderful, noble things that you're doing out there because, especially in light of all this rhetoric about defunding the police, and I know that has had a really a strong negative, psychological effect, on some of the officers out there, and I believe, without question, that those sentiments do not apply to the average and ordinary person who's living out there because the average and ordinary person really understands the value of police. And we get hit hard when they start implementing these things about defunding the police, especially that hit hard in Black and brown areas. And a thing also, which really is a concern that I have, is something very similar to what our military brothers and sisters out there go through, and this post-traumatic syndrome and all the trauma that underscores just being a policeman. And I just wanted to ask you, do you have any type of programs that are structured towards offering, I guess you can say, mental, emotional healing, those type of things, that type of therapy? Are those type of things in the process of being implemented within the police department?
Yeah, and I have a lot of experience. So when I was in Kansas City, Missouri, in 2008, I implemented the first wellness unit. And so here in KCK, we have a wellness unit. We have one officer that is dedicated to employee wellness. So whenever we have any situation, whether it's, an officer involved shooting or they've been on a real serious call, we do require them to, one, our wellness officer reaches out to them, and then we require them to to do a wellness debrief with a psychologist. And then we just do annually, there's certain units that we require annually for them to go and have the wellness debrief. It's, my son is 23 and he's an officer in Kansas City, Missouri. So, he calls me every day before he goes to work and when he gets off of work. And, we kind of have those discussions because I want to really make sure he's okay, having my 30 years. And, the other thing, that's why it's really important. What I really stress on this police department is the value of family. My wife, we got married just about my first when I had just graduated the academy. So we've been married for 30 years. And that's really a good source of strength for me. And I try to really stress that to the other members of the department on how important it is to have a strong family support. Because something about me that I'll share, you know, I didn't grow up in the greatest beginnings. And, you know, my father died when I was 6 and my mother when I was 11. And this community is one of the reasons why I came back as the police chief, because this community really took care of me, kept me out of jail, kept me out of drugs and alcohol and all of that. And, you know, I felt it's a passion to me. I really felt that I needed to give something back to this community that really took care of me. So I think family, and then, you know, you definitely, you know, you gotta have, you know, the belief and really God who really has watched me and watched over me and walked with me all of my life, because of no other reason.
Amen.
I wasn't worthy of it, but you know, felt that there was something that I needed to do. So I came back to KCK and hopefully I'm doing right by my community.
Amen. That's inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was quite so. Anyone else as we're coming to a close, they would like to share? I thought I saw William Stoner. Did you have your hand up earlier?
Yes, if I can just ask a quick question.
Sure.
First of all, just thank you so much, Chief, for what you're doing. Not really a part of the Kansas City area myself, but very, very grateful for what you're doing, because you're setting a standard that I think should be duplicated all throughout the country. So I ask and pray that you receive a lot more accommodation in what you're doing. In reference to how problems accumulate, I'm really concerned about some of the, as you call them, undocumented individuals coming across the border. To what extent do you think that's influencing the center of the country and smaller communities, illegal guns, fentanyl, violence, so many things that could be stimulated by that? To what extent are you finding crime in your area related just to the residents of your community, or to what extent are people coming from the outside into your community causing that?
Well, we know with fentanyl that there is some cartel ties here in KCK, but we're working with Homeland Security and some other federal agencies to deal with that. I think that it's one of those things where the majority of the people here, even the ones that are undocumented, they're kind of here just not really creating issues. I think that that's a broader conversation for the United States government to really figure out the best path to citizenship. And like I tell, you know, when people talk about local police during immigration enforcement, we don't have the time or the staff to, but when someone commits a crime, their status is not going to protect them from not being charged. And, you know, just like we tell, we're going to, if someone commits a crime and they're undocumented, yes, they will be handled just like anyone else. And then we will turn them over to the immigration authorities. But that's how we operate. But yeah, that's a deeper conversation. But yeah, we do see a connection with the border and the fentanyl and the crisis. So I think there still needs to be some kind of security down there. I think it would help with those who are coming here just to commit criminal activity, not the others.
Thank you very much. We have one more question as we close. Leslie Rigney, did you have your hand up? You're
Yes.
muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you
go
hear me
ahead.
now? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I really, really appreciate this officer's presentation. And I was really moved by his testimony that he came from a difficult background. And I think that that this highlights how important it is to really help these youth that are struggling. And I know here in Las Vegas, they have a community outreach program also that tries to reach the youth. But everywhere that can be, because these are the people that may be our leaders for tomorrow, people who are really motivated to make a difference. And I really appreciate what he's presented, and I hope he connects with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You may have some good things for them too. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, I know one of the deputy chiefs in Las Vegas. We were in a leadership school together, so I will reach
Oh,
out.
great. Oh, wonderful. Who is that? Which one?
I can't remember his last. I can
Is
never.
it McGrath? McGrath?
No, it's not McGrath. He's been there. He's been there about 30, 31 years, 32 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
been here a
He's
long
been
time.
the deputy chief there for about 4.5 years, maybe 5.
Right. Yeah, he worked with us on Peace Road, and also he was in charge when the shooting October 1st occurred. So it was quite something.
Yes.
So everything you speak about is so important. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Chief Oakman, for coming on. If you have I want to thank everyone for their questions that they have shared and their statements that they have shared with you. But as we come to our final close, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, just thank you for this opportunity, and really going back to something that James Mooney said. I think it was James that said that I can't remember who, that everyone tries to do your job. It's funny when I start off when I speak to the new academy classes and graduation, I always tell them, I said that I'm gonna tell you the good news and the bad news. I tell them, the good news is you're joining an awesome profession that you can make the difference in so many people's lives and you'll never know it. Now, the bad news is you're joining one of the few professions in the world that everyone knows how to do it better than you that never did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank
Chief.
you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Chief
Thank you so
Oakman, God
much.
bless.
God bless.
God bless.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone,
Let's go
for
to
coming on.
Kansas City, Kansas.
Yes.
Man.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
God
Look
bless you,
forward to
Chief.
seeing you.
Great success.
Okay.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend.
Officer
Yeah,
Oakman.
God bless you, Chief
Strong,
Oakman.
like an
Thank
oak
you. God
tree.
bless you.
Yeah.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Have
Thank
a
you,
nice
Reverend.
week.
Thank you,
All right,
Reverend
thank
Alder. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right, everyone. God bless. See you next week.
God bless.